My family is a rambunctious party of five, and living organic is a priority. My kids know all about the dirty dozen when it comes to produce and get excited when they read organic on the labels at the grocery store. But what about the things we don't consume every day or put on our skin, but are still part of our daily life? Like our mattresses. We sleep for 1/3 of our lives. Just think about that. So it's important for me to know that my kids aren't breathing in unnecessary chemicals 10 to 12 hours a night. I discovered Naturepedic at a mom conference and have been a believer ever since. They're a company that designs mattresses, pillows, and bedding that are certified organic, with numerous awards to prove it. I love the Verse collection, which is 100% GOTS certified organic cotton and wool, is free from glues, adhesives, or polyurethane foam, and passes flammability standards without fire retardants or chemical additives. Plus, for my twins, their 2-in-1 transitional kids mattress was a game changer. Once they were potty trained, we could just flip from the waterproof side to the quilted side. No unnecessary mattress purchase. If you're looking for organic sleep essentials for your family, look no further. Naturepedic's bedding, pillows, and toppers are certified organic too. Not to mention, so comfy and chic. Shop at naturepedic.com and rest assured, pun intended, you're in good hands. There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our Mom Sense and Dad Sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast that brings you conversations with the brightest minds and the biggest hearts. People who help us show up, not just as parents, but as purpose-driven human beings. Today's guest is a woman whose work has quite literally changed how we think about happiness, habits, and self-awareness. Gretchen Rubin. She's the author of multiple New York Times bestsellers, including The Happiness Project, which I have with me right here. It changed my life better than before, and The 4 Tendencies. And she is the co-host of the hit podcast Happier alongside her sister Elizabeth. In this episode, we're going to dive into her personal story, what she has learned growing up, the surprising start to her career, and what she's uncovered after years of studying happiness. So if you're struggling with motivation or how to actually enjoy being an adult or a parent and just stay grounded in who you are, this episode is for you. Gretchen, thank you so much for joining me on That's Total Mom Sense today.
I'm so happy to be talking to you today.
This is going to be a doozy.
Okay, let's get into it.
So excited. Of course, I've listened to so many of your talks and have read your most recent book, The Secrets of Adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to cover it all. Let's take it back and you set the stage. What was a young Gretchen like in childhood?
I was like a great student. I was highly conscientious. I loved to read, so I would read all the time. I had a little sister who was 5 years younger who I would pal around with. So I had sort of, I would just say, kind of a basic childhood.
Okay. And when you decided you wanted to pursue law, I feel like it was so true to form as an upholder.
Yes.
I'm also an upholder.
Yeah.
It's just, you just do it because you're a self-starter and you know this step to this step to this step.
Yeah.
So talk about, what led you down that path and then why you flipped it on its side and then chose writing.
Right. Well, you're exactly right. I drifted into law school, and I write a lot about drift, because drift is the decision we make by not deciding, or kind of just opting into the default decision.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm good at research and writing. I can always change my mind later. It's a great education. It'll keep my options open. My father's a lawyer. He likes it, and it was sort of like, what I needed to do was very clear. You need to study for the LSAT. How do you do? Then you need to apply for law school. How do you do? And I was like, okay, well, I got into Yale Law School. That sounds great. I'll go there. So I went, and I just did everything I was supposed to do. And I ended up clerking for Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. So that's how I got into law. But when I was clerking, I had an experience, and this is something that I experience regularly, which is that I will get intensely interested in a subject and do a huge amount of research and note-taking on it. And this has happened to me ever since I was little. So while I was clerking for Justice O'Connor, I asked myself the rhetorical question, what am I interested in that everybody in the world is interested in? Basically, like, what's the most interesting subject? And I thought, well, power, money, fame, sex. And it was like, power, money, fame, sex. And I went out and started researching and doing all this note-taking just for myself, just because I had this sort of obsessive curiosity about it. But at a certain point, I thought, I'm doing the kind of thing a person would do if they were going to write a book. And I thought, well, maybe I could write that book. So I went out to the bookstore and got a book called How to Write and Sell Your Nonfiction Book Proposal.
Okay.
And follow the directions. Yeah. Which makes it sound a lot easier than it was.
Oh my gosh.
But that is basically how I switched from law to writing.
I love that. And I think it's just so practical. I'm in the midst of writing something now. And the first book that a friend of mine, Fran Hauser, I'll give her a shout out, said to read is How to Write Useful Books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like sometimes you do need a playbook on what to do next. So I love that you followed one.
And I literally didn't know the process. I thought I could figure out the writing of a book, but I didn't know how to become an author.
Right.
Like, how did a person get an agent? How did that world work? So I had a lot of education.
Yes.
To do. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Tell us about just your family life, because your parents were so supportive.
They were. Yeah.
And the life lessons that you gleaned from them.
About making a career switch, or just in general?
In general.
In general.
That you apply to, your life as a parent now with your daughter.
Well, one of my father's, the things that he returns to all the time is he'll say, enjoy the process, meaning, which really has two meanings. One is like, enjoy what you're doing now. Don't get lost in future thinking and not enjoy what's happening right now. But it's also, don't get overly tied to outcomes, because sometimes we're like, well, as long as I make partner, or when I get pregnant, or when I get married, or when I get my new house, that's called the arrival fallacy. That's when we think that we'll be happy when we arrive someplace. And if you do that, then the outcome matters tremendously, because it's like, well, if you hate your job every single day and then you don't make partner, well, then you've wasted your life and you didn't get what you wanted.
Right.
And a lot of times in life, we don't get the outcomes that we want. If your book flops in publishing, they say it didn't find its audience.
Yes.
So I have written books that did not find their audience. And, but I loved every single book that I've written. I have loved writing it so much that I would never wish away the experience, or think like, oh, I wish I had used that time to write a different book, because I would never want to give up just the fun that I had writing them.
Right.
And so enjoying the process reminds you to enjoy the present, but then also to not get overly focused on outcomes.
That is excellent. I love that. And we're going to get back into the books you wrote, including on Churchill and JFK.
Yes.
In our rapid fire at the end.
Okay, good. Yes.
Yes. So you and your sister, Elizabeth Kraft, host a podcast called Happier. What's it like working with your sister in this capacity?
It's fantastic. And the problem is, it's sort of like, well, note to self, have an amazing sister to be in a family with.
Yes.
So I think for a lot of people, they fall into two camps. Either they're like, this would be my dream come true, or I would never in a million years do that. And so I'm really lucky, because my sister is, she's extraordinarily creative. She's a professional writer herself. And she's also extremely reliable. And so it's just the level of kind of trust and understanding is so high. And also because she lives in Los Angeles, because she's a Hollywood type, we're almost never in the same room. And so I think that the fact that we're so close as sisters helps us to have a good rapport, because it's hard to have a rapport with somebody you don't know very well, especially if you're not face to face. And so I
Right.
think that was a huge advantage to us, that like I know every shade of her voice, and she certainly knows every shade of my voice. And so it's really been, and it's been this amazing adventure for us to share. Like it's made us so much closer, because, but first of all, we have to talk all the time, and it just gives us all these reasons to connect that we wouldn't otherwise have. So
Yes.
it's very, very fun.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it's just nice hearing you in my earbuds,
Oh,
because
that's
it just
nice.
reminds me of like, kind of chit-chatting and bonding with my sister.
Uh-huh.
And I love the dynamic you two share.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. Yeah.
It's wonderful. And now about your motherhood journey.
Yeah.
That is of course a reckoning.
Mhm.
You learn so much about yourself and how, you might have wanted to be parented. It's just you go back to childhood in a
Mhm.
way. So what did you learn through motherhood that you can kind of shed light on with our audience today?
When I wrote the Happiness Project, one of the main reasons I wanted to write the Happiness Project is I wanted to do a better job of living up to my expectations for myself as a parent.
Yeah.
And, I was like, I just felt like I was too impatient. I was irritable. I just wasn't the kind of parent that I wanted to be. And I just wanted to behave myself better. And so a lot of in the Happiness Project, if you look at it, a lot of what I was working on was like things as simple as like getting enough sleep or giving myself more margin so that I wasn't rushing around. I'm not somebody who likes to rush around.
Yeah.
Taking times to celebrate minor holidays, giving a warm hello and goodbye every time somebody came and went. So really trying to find ways to manage myself better, and then also build in kind of small, manageable gestures that would increase the level of sort of tenderness and attentiveness in our household, because I wanted to have that feeling of deep connection and also just like more of a reservoir of patience and good humor.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I think we all need that because, of course, there's going to be challenges and struggles, but you have to look for the lightness.
Yeah.
You will feel totally bogged down if you can't find it.
Yes. And then also, it's like the little things that you do that stand out in memory. And so like, I remember one thing I did, it was leap year day. And so I was sort of like, okay, so leap day is kind of a backwards day, or it's kind of a reversal day in a way. So I picked them, both my daughters up early from school. And we did we went to Ripley's Believe It or Not and Madame Tussauds. Why I thought that was like a leap year day thing, I don't know why. That's what it came to me. And then we had, it went out for ice cream, which I rarely do as a parent. And and it's fun because it's just like we remember that day because we did something unexpected. But it's very easy to just like why would you do anything on leap day? It's sort of an imaginary. It's just a minor holiday that you could do something or not. So I really reminded myself of that. It's funny too, as a parent, I did a book event recently and somebody said, I'm always interested like of everything that I talk about, like what do people actually like work on? And somebody said, I always took to heart what you said about getting professional photographs taken with your family, because you take all these photographs, so you're like, we got too many photographs. I don't know how to manage it, but it's not the same as having an actual professional photograph taken where you're very mindful and it's on archival paper and the whole business. And it's the thing that you can't get back. That moment goes. And if you don't have a picture of you and your newborn, you'll never get it. If you don't have a picture with you and like that particular, you just can't get it back. And so many people have said and professional photographers will often say they're like, I love that you say that, because people will say, oh, I know I need to do this. I'm like, it's true.
Yes. I love that. Oh my gosh. Shout out to one of my best friends who is a professional photographer, Rashmi Gill, if you're listening. I completely agree. I feel like it's capturing a moment in time in the best possible light. That's the stuff that gets framed. So yes, I'm so with you. Okay, I wanted to talk about the Happiness Project. This book was such a balm and salve for me because when I had my 3 kids, I had them in 18 months.
That's bonkers.
It was just insane.
And so twins, insane. And like twins is just a lot.
Twins,
all at once.
And I had prayed for them. I had an ectopic pregnancy before I had them.
That's so hard.
So I had my own kind of like lowest of lows right before. And then I had the twins, and I had a younger son a year later. He was our oops surprise
Yeah.
baby. But I felt like I was living under a rock. And as you mentioned, it's like I was irritable. I felt like a martyr. I felt so sorry for myself and complaining and nagging and all the stuff that you mentioned in your chapters. And I just felt like I need to get myself out of this rut. No one's coming to save me, and I have to figure this shit out on my own.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I loved how I would kind of just follow along because you had 1 month for each chapter
Yeah.
and your 12 commandments, and it was just so palatable.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share the 12 commandments with everyone now. So number 1 is be Gretchen.
Yeah, and everybody has to substitute their own name for that.
Yeah. So be Kanika, let it go, act the way I want to feel, do it now, be polite and be fair, enjoy the process, as your
There you
dad
go,
said,
yes.
spend out, identify the problem, lighten up, do what ought to be done, no calculation, and there is only love.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that there are so many more. I want to share what other readers have sent you. Forget the past, do stuff, talk to strangers, stay in touch, stop the venting and complaining, go outside, never bother with the people you hate, notice the color purple, let go and let God. Nothing is too much. I love it. And there are some that are paradoxes. This is so interesting because you just kind of tapped into whatever one person needed at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be just say yes or just say no.
Yes.
Do it now or wait.
Yep.
And always strive to do your best, or remember the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
You take what
bigger
matters
and smaller.
to you.
Yeah.
I love that. That. I want to actually double click on your chapter on remembering love. And that was in February, very apropos for Valentine's Day. And I feel like, when you're in a marriage, especially when you have kids, you're like put through the ringer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was just thinking about this. If I and I'm sure many can relate, but if you were to see your spouse on the street walking in New York City, you might want to stop and be like, oh, wow, what a hottie.
Yeah.
I want to just catch
Yeah.
this person's attention. And then when you see them making the weird expression, brushing their teeth next to you, you're just like, Lasai. So it's crazy how you have to revive this sense of connection. And again, I don't know, without having the expectation of the praise or the appreciation, like you say in the chapter. How do you do that? How do you make yourself feel like, okay, I am so attracted to this person and I wanted this and I should be happy. Why am I not happy?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things, just a very practical thing to do, is to remember that you should act the way you want to feel. So there's kind of a belief that our actions are caused by our feelings. So you're like, well, I'm angry, therefore I'm yelling and throwing things and slamming doors. But actually in the brain, it's very much that the brain is like, wow, there is so much yelling and throwing stuff and slamming doors around here. There must be anger. And then so that will amplify angry feelings. And so you can take advantage of this by you act the way you wish you felt. So if you're feeling sluggish, you can move more quickly and speak more quickly. If you're feeling reserved or shy, you can act more friendly. And a lot of times people are like, I wish that I had a more loving relationship. I wish that this other person would be more loving to me. But the fact that, and you're like, well, I don't feel like giving them a kiss. So why would I kiss them? But actually what the research shows is that by kissing somebody, you will make yourself feel more loving toward them. And so by acting in more loving and attentive ways, you will increase the feeling that you have. And I have to say that one of the most frustrating things in the study of happiness is that the only person that we can change is ourselves. That is true. And that's very frustrating because we all have a long list of what other people should do that would make us happier. But what I will say is that when we change, a relationship changes. And when we change, the atmosphere around us changes. And so we can bring about change in others by changing ourselves. And what I found with my husband certainly is that when I was calmer, when I had a better sense of humor, when I was more loving and attentive, then he started reflecting that back to me. But I couldn't make him start.
Yeah.
And then respond. I had to start.
Yes. Yes. And tell us about how you and Jamie had the week of extreme nice.
Yes, which he did not notice. Extreme nice was like, I was just as nice as I could possibly be in every possible way. Like I was totally accommodating. I was not a little snarky. I like everything I did. And he did not even notice, which I thought that was actually a good sign because it's like, it shows that the
your baseline is kind of nice.
The contrast was not so extreme that he was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? So of course I was like, could you not notice my extreme niceness? But no, I guess it wasn't that far off.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think that's something that we can all kind of rewire, as we go through our day. That's excellent. Let's go into the 4 tendencies.
Yes. Oh my God, you're an upholder. So yeah,
so fun.
You and me both.
It just reminds me of the magazine quizzes we took growing up.
I love a quiz.
Yes,
I love a quiz.
Yes.
I've got so many quizzes on my site. Go to GretchenRubin.com. If you like a quiz, I've got like so many really good quizzes, not even lame quizzes, but really good quizzes.
Yes. And millions have taken them.
Yes. Yeah. I think the 4 tendencies, it's like 3.5 million people now have taken it. It's it's free and it's fun.
I wonder what the breakdown is there.
Oh, you mean in terms of which tendency?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
The thing is you can't, because of selection bias.
Yes.
Well, no, I know because I could look, but because of selection bias, that doesn't really tell you anything. It just tells you like who's in my audience that took the quiz. So I did pay for a representative sample to take the quiz to get a sense of like what would be the true distribution of the 4 tendencies.
Right.
And it's exactly what I would think just going through the world, which is obliger is the biggest tendency for both men and women. That's obvious. Questioner is second. Rebel is the smallest tendency. And then upholder is only slightly larger. And I mean, that is 100% rings true. Like if you just think about the people in your world, you'll see a lot of people are obligers, a fair number of people are questioners, not that many people are rebels, though it is very conspicuous when they are. And then upholders are also a very small group.
At That's Total Mom Sense, we celebrate family, culture, and the everyday moments that matter most. And that's why I trust Lexus. Their cars are designed to make every journey unforgettable. This AAPI Heritage Month and beyond, Lexus honors the strength and stories of our community, because when luxury meets legacy, the standard is amazing. Head to Lexus.com and follow Lexus USA on social media to find your next adventure. Okay, so tell us some of the characteristics about them, because you will quickly be able to identify which category you are. And then if you have kids, which ones they are.
Yeah. And it's very helpful to know as a parent, I will say.
Yes.
Okay. So what this looks at is something that sounds really boring, but it turns out to be very, very interesting, which is how you respond to expectations. So we all face 2 kinds of expectations: outer expectations, like a work deadline, and inner expectations, like your own desire to keep a New Year's resolution. So depending on whether you meet or resist outer and inner expectations, that's what makes you an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel. So upholders, like you and me, are people who readily meet outer and inner expectations. They meet the work deadline. They keep the New Year's resolution without much fuss. Yeah. They want to know what other people expect from them, but their expectation for themselves is just as important.
Right.
They tend to be very good at execution. They don't need a lot of accountability or supervision. They love to-do lists and calendars. They can be rigid once they lock into a system. So their motto is discipline is my freedom.
Yes.
Then there are questioners. Questioners question all expectations. They'll do something if they think it makes sense. So they're making everything an inner expectation. If it makes sense to them, they'll do it, no problem. If it doesn't make sense to them, they'll push back.
Yes. Oh my God, this is so Ravenclaw, by the way.
Oh, right. Yeah. And then, but the problem with the
questioners?
The reason that the 4 houses of Hogwarts do not match the tendencies, because Hermione, Fred, and George are all Gryffindor, and they are not all the same tendency.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. But because I think all the time about like mapping different tests. It's fun.
Yeah. But the analytical nature of things is very indicative of a questioner.
So they want efficiency, justifications, rationale. They tend to love research. They tend to love to customize to make things work exactly right.
Yeah, this is my husband to a T.
Mine too. We're both upholders married to questioners.
I love it.
And they can sometimes fall into analysis paralysis when their desire for perfect information makes it hard for them to move forward. They
Yes.
sometimes don't like to answer questions, which is a very kind of paradoxical aspect of some questioners. It's just kind of odd. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, but they're
They're
questioners. And I'm
always
like,
asking.
but I know, but they don't like to answer questions. So their motto is, I'll comply if you convince me why.
Right. Right.
Then there
Oh my
are
goodness.
obligers. This is the biggest group for both men and women. And obligers readily meet outer expectations, but they struggle to meet inner expectations. So these are people who say, I can always keep my promises to other people, but why can't I keep my promises to myself?
Yeah.
And the answer, it's a very straightforward solution for obligers, is that they must create systems of outer accountability, even for an inner expectation. So you
Okay.
want to read more, you join a book club, you want to exercise more, you work out with a trainer who's charging you, you work out with a friend
Okay.
who's annoyed if you don't show up, raise money for a charity, think of your duty to be a role model. There's a million ways to create outer accountability once you realize that that is what you need.
Yes.
Obligers do not need to think about self-care or making themselves a priority or motivation. They need outer accountability.
Yes. And you know what? You actually mentioned a great example in one of your talks
Mm.
on when you have an exercising like accountability buddy. You said that you have a friend or someone you know who actually they switch one pair of their shoes.
Yes.
Tell
Yeah,
us about
two
this.
guys.
This is-
Yeah. For accountability. So they would go to the gym together. They didn't work out together. They just went at the same time. And then when they would leave, they would each switch a shoe. So like, if you don't come, I can't work out because you have one of my shoes.
Right.
So again, it's just this very straightforward accountability system.
Yeah.
And they make great leaders, great team members, great friends, great family members, because they're the people that go the extra mile. I've actually talked to employers who want to screen because they only want to hire obligers. But so really like the downsides fall on obligers themselves. But then once they know they need outer accountability, then they can figure that out.
Right.
So their motto is, you can count on me and I'm counting on you to count on me. And then finally, rebels. So
Yes.
rebels resist all expectations, outer and inner alike. They want to do what they want to do in their own way, in their own time. So they can do anything they want to do. But if you ask or tell them to do something, they're very likely to resist. And like
Right.
typically they don't tell themselves what to do. Like they don't sign up for the 10 a.m. yoga class on Saturday because they think, I don't know what I'm going to want to do on Saturday. And just the idea that something's on the calendar is going to annoy me.
Right.
So their motto is, you can't make me and neither can I.
I.
Yeah. So again, if you go to gretchenrubin.com/quiz or just search for quiz, you can take a quiz that will give an answer. But a lot of times people know right from the get-go exactly what they are and the people around them in their life. So we're both upholders married to questioners.
Yes,
That's interesting.
I love that. I really love it. It's so illuminating. And I think that's a fun date night activity right there.
It is. It is. I've never gotten because questioners are like, why would I bother to take the quiz? I mean, whatever. But like, he's so obviously a questioner that I don't think I've ever even made him take it because he just could not be more questioner.
Right. Yeah, I know. Sunil is the same. That's awesome. Now let's dive into your latest, The Secrets of Adulthood.
Yes.
Which it's just going to become such a phenomenon. So tell us some of your favorites from the book.
Well, just to explain what the book is, because it's
Yes.
kind of unusual, it's just a series of secrets of adulthood. So it's like most of them are one or two sentences. A few
Yep.
of them have examples or illustrations because I just couldn't resist including them. But most of them are just a sentence or two. And there's a literary tradition of the aphorism, which is when there's a general observation about human nature attributed to a person. So Mark Twain said it, or Dolly Parton said it, whoever, Montaigne said it, which is different from a proverb, which is like a stumble may prevent a fall, which is just folk wisdom that's floating around that we all kind of know, but don't attribute to anyone. So I love the aphorism. I've been collecting them my whole life. And so I thought it would be fun to write my own. And so these are sort of secrets of adulthood. So they're meant to help us like navigate the perplexities of relationships or make decisions or
Yes.
get ourselves to do something when we don't seem to be able to get ourselves to do it. Like all the things that are kind of like the challenges of adulthood. These are things that these are observations that I've made that are meant to be helpful.
Yes, I love that. And I mean, there was an Easter egg in the Happiness Project. You had a little list of your secrets of adulthood on there.
I've been kind of pondering them and writing them
Yes.
in one way or another for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did. And I feel like it's so lovely that you're passing this on to your daughters. You know,
Yeah.
it's just you're very bite-sized, again, palatable list of like, remember this.
You know what's
Um,
funny is there's space in the back to write your own Secrets of Adulthood, because a lot of times people realize that they have their own that they
Yeah.
just sort of never articulated.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who has adult children, and of course we all know you're not supposed to give advice, unsolicited advice to your adult children. So she said she got the copy of the book for each of them, wrote down her advice for each one of them individually, and then said, "Will you give me Mother's Day immunity?" She gave it to them on Mother's Day and said, "I want immunity
Yes.
for giving you advice because I just want to get it off my chest." And so I thought, and they were like, "Yes, we'll give you Mother's Day immunity." So I thought that was very funny, because we all have these things we want to pass along, and it's not always the case that people like want to hear them.
I know. We want to, have like a receiving.
Yes.
Like I'm ready to do it. Tell us some of your favorites.
Probably my very favorite is one that took me an incredibly long time to understand. And this was something that came out of the Happiness Project when I was really just trying to understand like the nature of happiness. And that is that we should accept ourselves and also expect more from ourselves, because there's a tension there that's very confusing, I think, because sometimes we're like, well, should I show myself compassion and sort of recognize the limits of my nature? Or there's some things that I'm just not, and like just can't, I don't want to like keep pursuing some fantasy self that's not real. But then on the other hand, we also want to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and stretch and learn and grow. And so I was sort of like, well, which is it? And then I'm like, it's both. We have to accept ourselves and expect more from ourselves. So that's probably my favorite of all of them.
Absolutely. I love just practical advice that you give, like bring a sweater.
Oh yeah. Well, in the back, it's funny.
Yes.
I love a transcendent Secret of Adulthood, but I also love just a hack. And when I was working on the book, I just couldn't resist keeping like a list of just what I call simple secrets of adulthood, which are just more like hacks. And I have to say that I thought my editor would say, "Gretchen, like these don't belong in the book. Come on, like cutting room floor with those." But she was like, "I think they're fun.
Yes.
Like if you don't know what to do with yourself, go outside or go to sleep." And she's like, "I love it." So they did stay there in the back. Yeah,
yes.
And they're very fun.
I love that. One of the secrets I learned from a friend of mine, Amanda Russell, her grandma told her this, which, I feel like is, it's kind of heavy, but it's also, it allows you to protect yourself. This was what advice she gave her right before college when she was going away. She said, never be the last one to leave a party.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing good can come of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she said.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that if I had, I don't know, we don't need to go down that path, but if I had advice like that, where it's like, you don't need to be this people pleasing person and get sucked into the debauchery. You just, you have the control. I think it's so important, especially for our daughters, to know that.
Right.
That's great. And what's lighting you up lately?
Well, one thing I'm doing, I got a new puppy.
Oh, nice.
That's super fun. It's a lot of work. And somebody's like, is it making you and your husband come together? I'm like, no, we're actually like just bickering a lot because of whatever, but it is a super fun family adventure and she's really fun. So that's lighting me up. And then one of the things I'm doing for 2025 is I'm doing watercolor every day.
Wow.
I'm really bad. I'm just learning, but that's fun. And that's like a fun kind of element to everyday life. That's new. So that's fun.
I love that. And I love how on your podcast you shared how Taffy just changed your life.
Puppy,
when you think about happier, it's like pets make you happy.
They do.
You
and
regret
it's funny.
getting a dog sooner.
No, the research really shows that, and it's really true. They just do make you happier.
Yes.
It's for sure true.
Let's do a quick rapid fire.
Oh, okay, great.
Before we close out. So, okay, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Same. Your go-to way to just reset your mood?
Read.
Nice. Favorite like motivational song, something that peps you up?
I love Feeling Good by Nina Simone.
Yes. And I know you're an avid reader. It's so hard to pick one book that's changed your life. But is there one that you feel like might be most apropos for the audience? It's like, this is a good one for you guys.
Well, a fun book, if you're very, very busy and don't have time to read, but you really love good literature, I highly recommend a novella called The English Understand Wool by Helen DeWitt. It's only 70 pages long. It's like a little golden book. It's part of a series that's meant to give adults the pleasure of sitting down and reading a book from beginning to end the way children do.
Wow.
But it's extremely sophisticated. So you come away from it feeling like I really read a piece of literature, but it's got like 2 big twists. And it's a funny title. So it's the English understand wool, like the French understand wine, the Swiss understand accuracy, the English understand wool. And it all makes sense. But it's really one of these, I recommend it to everybody because I'm like, if you don't have a lot of time to read, but you want something really satisfying, this I sat down, my parents had it at their house and I like sat down and like read it and just didn't put it down.
I can't wait to read it.
It's really good.
Oh, that's so great. And then 70 pages. I mean,
It's very short, but it is stunning how much you will feel like I read an entire novel. It doesn't, because I have to say, I don't really like short stories.
Yeah. Is it like
much,
Hawthorne-esque? Like,
no.
Okay.
It's hard to describe it. Will mischaracterize it. I refuse to describe it, but I will say it has 2 major twists because I know people love a twist.
Yeah.
There's 2 big twists that you don't see coming. So it's very like, what's going on?
This is great. I need to just get off the self-help, which is what I usually read, and read a novella. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
You'll
you.
love it.
Most surprising thing that you've discovered about happiness?
The degree to which it's different for all of us. Like there is no one best way. I started out thinking like, well, I'll just find the best way, the most efficient way.
Yeah.
There is no one best way because like you said, some people are morning people and some people are night owls. How could you tell everybody in the world to get up and do what's important first thing in the morning? That's terrible advice. Accountability for some people, accountability is one of the most prescribed tools. And for some people, it's actually counterproductive. Making a to-do list. A lot of people can't use to-do lists. It's like
a rebel or a questioner is not going to do that.
So each of us really has to figure it out for ourselves and to say like, no tool fits every hand. I've tried meditation 3 times. It doesn't work for me. Because I think a lot of times we get discouraged and we think, well, there must be something wrong with me. Why am I lazy? I lack willpower. This works for everybody else. I'm here to say there is nothing that works for everyone.
Yeah.
If you're struggling and need a workaround, probably many people have struggled and they have found amazing workarounds. And so if something's an issue, instead of saying like, I need to change myself so this works, you say, this doesn't work. What's something else I can try? And there's so many different, we can all get to the top of the mountain, but we have to take different paths there. And I think sometimes people are just like, no, I'm just going to stick it out instead of saying, oh, okay, what's the different path?
Let's iterate.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's iterate.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Okay, since you've written so much about Winston Churchill and JFK, what is one quirky fact that, we wouldn't know about them?
Well, it's funny because when I wrote about Winston Churchill, I included the fact that he wore pale pink silk underwear, and I got a very indignant email from like some elderly English guy questioning that, and I was like, that fact comes from his daughter's memoir, and like gave him the page number. Yeah. Okay. But the thing about Churchill is like, he truly is like, if you love an aphorism or just like a great writing, it's extraordinary to me just what a great writer he was.
Yes.
So, that was a great pleasure.
And what about JFK?
JFK is an enigma. That's what I think is such the most interesting thing about JFK is I feel like he is a mystery that cannot be, his depths cannot really be plumbed. It's interesting to me. Yes. It was interesting to study someone like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, my immigrant parents were beloved followers of the Kennedys. And it's just, it's amazing the impact that, he and his family had worldwide.
It's interesting to think about the fact that you can represent a standard and uphold a standard, even if you yourself do not live up to that standard. And I think that that's the paradox of Kennedy, which is we now know that in many ways he did not live up to, in his personal life, everything we would have wished. And yet in the public mind, he is remembered for holding up a standard that still resonates. And I think that's part of understanding that people and that's true of many people.
Yeah. Yes,
that they represent something much greater than they themselves actually were.
Yes, exactly. And what's one thing about you that we'd be surprised to know if you feel open to share.
Well, one thing about me is I love children's literature and young adult literature. Yeah, I read it as an adult. I'm in book groups with all adults where we talk about young adult literature and children's literature. I think I love it. I have such a taste for it, and I for a long time I kind of denied it because it didn't fit with my idea of myself as like a discerning, sophisticated reader.
Yeah,
but now I embrace it. Everybody, if you're somebody who loves children's literature, just know you can read it as an adult. You don't need a child to give you an excuse.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's great. And what does happiness mean to you today in this present time?
Because I started my career in law and spent an entire semester arguing about the definition of contract, I never talk about definitions. I feel like they're not useful. I'm like, it can be whatever you want: joy, bliss, contentment, well-being, life satisfaction, whatever you want. I always think about how could I be happier, not what is happiness.
Yes.
Because I feel like it melts my brain.
Yeah.
So I can't even answer that question.
And then it's unattainable. It's just,
that's right. It's a process.
When are you happy and not happy?
Yeah.
You're just inching forward. Always.
I feel like it's very confusing. And then it's like, well, how would you get there? And how would you know you're there? And how do you stay there? Right. And it's just like, no, it's like, what can make you happier?
Yes. Oh, I think I completely agree. And lastly, a mom sense moment that you can share. And, the show is really predicated on how we all have an intuition. It's not just moms. But something just kicks into high gear with your kids when you're a parent. Mm-hmm. And so a moment that you trusted that inner voice of yours with, a family situation or with your girls, was like, I'm so glad I listened to that voice.
What was funny, when we went to go get my older daughter from summer camp for the first time, we were in the car and I said to my husband, she might just burst out crying when she sees us, but don't be upset. She's going to be overwhelmed with emotion. And we got there and she burst out crying and I freaked out. Like, I completely forgot what I said. And I said to Jamie, like, why are you so calm about it? Because he said, well, you said she was going to do it. And I was like, I did say she was going to do it. It was like, faced with it, I like was overwhelmed, but like in my heart, I knew like, this is just a thing that happens. Like, you get overwhelmed with emotion. You haven't seen your parents for so long. And then I was like, oh, I was right. I was right. I knew better, even if in the moment I forgot.
Wow. You called that. Oh my gosh. And any parting words you want to leave our viewers with, and where we can find you?
Everything. You can find everything about my books, my podcast, my quiz. I've got newsletters. I've got a regular newsletter. I've got a Substack newsletter. I've got courses. I got everything. If you go to GretchenRubin.com, everything is through there, and I'm all over social media. And I love to connect with people about insights and observations and examples and questions. I think the thing I would say is that is back to this idea, like, there is no one right way. There is no one best way. It's really whatever works for you. And a lot of times we skip the self-knowledge part. And we just want to jam ourselves into somebody else's model, or we want somebody to hand us a template that we can just execute on. When in fact, you have to say, like, well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my temptations? What are my aims? Like, what's missing? What are my challenges? And so, yeah, we can't skip that self-reflection.
That's great. Thank you so much. This was, really, really amazing. I feel like you're such a remarkable human being.
Oh, well, thank you.
And this chat made me happier.
Oh, good. It made me happier too. I feel like we could talk all day.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Gretchen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is @KanikaChaddaGupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.